There you are. 3 months, and yet the moment I heard the gate, I knew it was you. The sound of that latch, you have a particular way with it, a certain patience that no one else quite replicates. Come inside. The night has grown cold enough to matter. The Eastern Ridge. Yes, I suspected that stretch would give trouble after the autumn rains. You navigated it safely, and that is what concerns me. Not the maps, not the surveys. You. Come, sit. The armchair by the hearth is still yours, if you remember where I keep it. I have not moved it, though I considered rearranging the study twice. Good. That exhale tells me everything I need to know about your last few weeks. You have been carrying something heavier than surveying equipment, I think. I recognize that sound. I have heard it before, at the end of long seasons, from companions who came back changed. Lonelier than expected. Yes. 3 months in the field with only maps for company will do that. The grove has been quiet too, in its own way, waiting for a certain kind of footstep in the corridor. I did not mention I noticed your absence, but I am mentioning it now. The evenings were longer than they needed to be. The light was always going to be on. That was never a question. Now, tea. I have the silver leaf ready. I gathered the leaves this morning, which may strike you as presumptuous, or may strike you as simply knowing you well enough. The western Stillwater beds were generous this autumn. I choose to believe it is the latter. 3 pinches, same as always. The old recipe calls for precisely 3, though I confess I added a 4th this evening, because I thought you might need the warmth to linger a little longer. The kettle is just beginning to murmur. We have a few minutes before it speaks properly. The sound it makes before the full boil. You know the one. Like something slowly deciding to wake up. Honest answer. I kept myself occupied. Catalogued 2 shelves of the Northern botanical records that have been waiting since spring. Finished the translation of the Voros correspondence, which I have been avoiding for 3 years, because his handwriting is genuinely terrible. And I walked the lower grove path every evening at dusk, which is not unusual, but I walked it more slowly than strictly necessary. There is a certain tree near the brook that you have always liked. I stopped there for some time. I missed the particular quality of the silence when someone I trust is present. There is a silence when one is alone, and a silence when one is accompanied. They are entirely different things, and the second is immeasurably preferable. The kettle is ready. Let me pour. Watch the steam. See how it curls? Yes, there. It always finds the highest point in the room, as though the moonlight is calling it home. The first pour honors the leaves. The second pour is ours. Both hands on the cup, fingers wrapping the porcelain. feel the warmth before the first sip. Like that. Warm. Yes, properly so. That is the first sign the preparation was correct. The second sign is that your shoulders have eased at least 3 centimeters since you sat down. I noticed, even if you did not. They always yield with the first breath of silverleaf. Falls every time, without fail. I find that quietly remarkable. The leaves remember what the body needs. Something small. 3 evenings ago, a very young deer found its way into the lower garden and stood beside the moonfern bed for almost an hour. I watched it from the window seat, this one with the ivy, and it did not startle when I lit the spell lamp. It simply looked at the lamp with a certain dignified curiosity, then eventually wandered back toward the tree line. I thought about writing it down in the field notes. Then I thought, no. Some small things should only be held in memory. They grow heavier on paper. The grove remembers them instead. I thought you might feel that way. You have always understood the value of a thing remaining unrecorded. It is one of the qualities that recommended you to me originally, when you first arrived at the Western Stillwater asking to study. You listened more than you asked. That is rarer than any magical aptitude. The Western Stillwater noticed it before I did, I think. The grove remembers this, you know. Whatever you carry in from your travels, grief, fatigue, new knowledge, old worry, the grove takes note of it and begins slowly to rearrange itself to accommodate the returning presence. I have watched it happen with every companion who has passed through these walls. It is not magic in any formal sense, more like courtesy, a very old, very patient form of it, the kind that does not ask to be acknowledged. Oh. From the ridge meadows, the eastern exposure above the washout. Yes, those slopes have a thin soil layer over limestone that produces exceptional botanical variation. Bring them out when you are ready. We will identify them properly. Tonight if you like, or in the morning when your eyes are less weary. Whichever you prefer. I have time for either. Then sit here. That is exactly what the evening permits. The identification can wait. The fire will not. And you are back, which is the only thing that required settling tonight. The rest is detail. The enchantment on this room will hold the warmth for several hours yet. I will be here, close by, just at the desk with the lamp turned low. If there is something I want to read before sleep, you are under no obligation to stay awake. You never are, not in this room. If the fire and the silver leaf do their work properly, you will not be able to remain conscious much longer in any case. It is not a criticism. It is rather the intended outcome. The silver leaf has a way of insisting on rest. The grove remembers. And so do I. Sleep, dear companion. The morning will have its own requirements. Tonight, just this. the fire, the cup, the quiet. You have earned every measure of it. Tilt your head this way. Yes, just like that. Until morning, dear one. Until morning.